Hey guys, good morning. It's time for us to do our writing lesson today, and we've been taking it very slow. We've been doing our narrative writing today that we've been working on this week. And I know on Monday I had you to do your mind dump where you put everything down, and then yesterday Monday we put down 5 things we wanted to write about, and yesterday we narrowed it down to 2 and we made the 2 columns. So today I want you to think of which one, after you did all of your brainstorming yesterday, to really think what you thought about that topic. I want you to decide which one you're going to write about. For me, I'm going to write about my trip to New York with Mr. Thompson last spring. So I want you guys to really be involved today with just that one topic that you chose. So we had it 5, we narrowed it down to 2, and now today I want you to pick your topic. Today, what we're going to do is we're going to plan out our story, how we're going to write it, and we're going to talk about the beginning, the middle, and the end. And so for today's purposes, I'm going to have 3 columns. Now you can do this at home too. It's up to you. Ooh, those are not equal. Let me see if I can fix that a little bit. I'm going to slide this one over just a little bit because I want to make them equal, because we're going to do a beginning, and we're going to do a middle, and we're going to do an end. That's a little bit better. So we're going to do a beginning. Now, for mine, I'm just using a green so you can see the difference in what I'm writing. You don't have to use a different color. You do need to use your pencil because we're still writing. So I'm going to put a B at the top, beginning. So that's my beginning. So I told you I was going to use my trip to New York. So the first thing we did when we got to New York was to get to New York, we had to fly on a plane. So I'm going to draw a plane. That's my plane. So we flew on a plane. So I'm going to write that down. Flew on a plane, because that happened at the beginning. In order to get to New York, I had to fly on a plane. And when we got off the plane, we got in a taxi. So I'm going to draw a taxi. We got a taxi. And we went to our hotel. So I'm going to draw. Now, our hotel was a very, 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 very tall building. And I'm going to draw, it had lots of windows. It was a beautiful place, but it was a very tall building. And so I'll say we went to our hotel. So what you're doing today, you're not making whole sentences yet. You're just drawing your symbol to help you remember. So like, you may not write a whole, like I said, flew on a plane. You may just write plane, and you just may write taxi, and you may write hotel, because these things happen in the beginning. And I'm thinking about them in order. 1, 2, 3. So when I start my story, I'm going to say, last spring, Mr. Thompson and I flew on a plane. When we got to New York, we got a taxi and we went to our hotel. So that's the beginning of my story. So for you today, I want you to think we're only going to work on the beginning of our story today. So on your paper, you've got, like we've made the lines, so you've got your sections. In the middle, we're going to say, this is the beginning. We're going to have the middle. And then I used red and green start, red stop. So the end, I'm just explaining why I use those colors so that you can see it. Beginning, middle, and end. So tomorrow, we'll work on the middle of our story. But today, I want you to focus on the beginning. Get your details that you need. For my story, we flew on a plane up to New York, we got a taxi, and we went to our hotel. That's the beginning of my story. I'm telling a story about what happened, so I've got mine in the beginning. You may only have 1 part to your beginning or 2 parts to your beginning. That's fine. You don't have to have three. This is my story, so I'm having three. So if you only have one, like if you're writing about your favorite Christmas ever, you can say at Christmas we go to my grandma's. So you could draw a Christmas tree in your grandma, and that would be your symbol to remind you what happened at the beginning of the story. So for me, we flew on a plane, we got on a taxi, and we went to our hotel. So we're doing the beginning today. So now that I've got my ideas, now you notice I didn't spend a whole lot of time coloring them. This is not the part where you're going to need a lot of detail and coloring and special attention to it. This is just a way to get your brain organized. This is not your final product. So I don't want to spend all day long detailing all of my airplane. No, I can just draw it, write the word plane, and I can move to the next thing. So I've got plane, taxi, and hotel. So that's my beginning, my middle, my end. Now, I've got this set up to do the middle and the end another time. So I'm going to stay on my beginning. We're going to stay on the beginning probably today and tomorrow because I really want us to work on those sentences because we've got to think about what we're going to do. So you've got yours drawn out. So remember, or you're going to get yours drawn out. So once you get your ideas down, so you've got your paper for your beginning. Now we need to start thinking about how are we going to put those into sentences? How are we going to make those into sentences? So I'm going to give you a time for that writing to happen. For me, it was last spring. Yours may be last Christmas. It may be in May. It may, whenever yours is happening, this is the time where you're going to use that sheet that I showed you that had the times and the dates for everything. Let's see if I can find mine really quickly. It had time, yeah, here it is. It had time word phrases and transitional phrases. So I'm going to use the telling time. It's going to be last spring. So I'm saying so here it is. It comes under the one end, but it's last spring. So I'm going to say last spring. So that's that time word that I'm going to use. I'm going to say last spring. And you need to make sure you know who's in your story. Last spring, Mr. Thompson and I flew to New York. So that's my first sentence. So what I'm doing is I'm going back and looking at the beginning that I wrote. Plane was the first one. Last spring, Mr. Thompson and I flew to New York. And the next thing I had was a taxi. So I'm going to say, we got a taxi. That's my next sentence. And then I'm going to say, we went to the hotel. So that's the beginning of my story. Now, yours may only be one sentence. It may be, last Christmas we went to my grandma's house. That's fine. It may be, we went to the baseball game in May. That's fine. You don't have to have as much detail as I had, but I'm telling about my experience. It's my narrative. So I'm telling my story. Last spring, Mr. Thompson and I flew to New York. We got a taxi and we went to the hotel. So on this part of my beginning, I could then illustrate on this sheet, the beginning of my story, I could illustrate the airplane, and we were in the airplane, so, and then you have taxi, and then you have a hotel. I could illustrate it after I make my sentences. Your sentences do not have to be big, big sentences. And you need to be thinking in your brain using those letters and using those letter sounds and those alphabet cards that I handed you or gave you earlier, so that you can use those to help you write. That's what they're there for. All of those cards that I sent home with you, the blends and digraphs, the alphabet chart for that's a really good chart for you. And then you have the long vowel and short vowel chart. So you have these charts. When you're writing, have them out. When you're sounding out words. Now, I didn't sound out and, got, we, went, to, the, because those are sight words that we should know. And if you don't know them, that's okay. Use your sight word list and try to find them and spell them correctly, because that we're going to go back over our editing tips at the end. But for right now, I want you to work on the beginning of your story. Do your little part where you wrote out your ideas for the beginning of your story. If you don't get to the sentences today, that's okay. You can do them tomorrow. Always keep working and think about writing's never just, oh, I'm done, I'm finished, I reached Friday, I'm finished. No, writing is continuous. So you may go weeks and come back and go, I want to add something to that story. That's the beauty of writing. It doesn't have to be done just one time in one setting. It can be done in multiple days and sometimes even multiple years. All good writers will tell you they don't just sit down and write a story all at one time. They may have the idea in their head, but they write it down, they go away, they come back, they add more. That's what makes a good writer. And remember, this is your story. This is my story. You're writing your narrative. So take your time. For today, I really want you to focus on getting those ideas down for your beginning of your story. Just focus on getting those ideas down. You can do this part tomorrow. No worries. We'll be slow with it. Like I said, it's going to take us a long time to write this story because it's your story, and we want to make sure you have all of your ideas down for us. So I will see you guys in a little bit for math. It's going to be a fun lesson today for math. I can't wait. I'll talk to you later. Bye.